Hello, everybody. I'm Jonathan Stallick. I'm a professional registered homeopath. I've been practicing for around, I think, 38 years, maybe a little more. And I've got the lovely Michelle here, who's a patient of mine. And we're going to talk about Michelle's experience with homeopathy. So, Michelle, how old are you and what do you do for work?
Yeah, so I'm 41 and I'm currently a project coordinator back in the corporate world. But I have been practicing yoga for 10 years and was teaching for a few years and will eventually go back to teaching.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And what brought you to homeopathy? What health issue and what were the symptoms or challenges you were facing?
Yeah, so the major one, so I had used homeopathy before randomly when I was in India, which was someone just gave me something for a UTI and it worked right away. But I didn't ever really think much about homeopathy. And it wasn't until I had I've never really had major health issues, but I did have kind of ongoing problems after I had the COVID vaccine. So that was heart palpitations, a lot of nerve issues. So my left leg, I lost a lot of strength in it. I got some numbness. The symptoms were I felt like they were very random. I was getting twitching, and I had been using acupuncture, which helped a bit, but I felt like I wasn't getting back to, I don't know if you remember when I came on, I was like, I just want to go back to, I didn't feel like me anymore. I wanted to go back to how I used to feel.
In fact, you were quite, disturbed actually by the whole thing. You were quite upset and you're distressed.
I didn't think I would get better.
Yeah.
I thought I would never be able to practice yoga the way I used to.
Right.
Like I thought I was broken.
Yes.
Completely. Yeah.
And did you have any initial concerns about going the homeopathic route
I didn't have concerns. I knew, it's completely safe. I was probably a bit skeptical that it would work on even though it had great results when I had the UTI. I was surprised at how well it worked for something that I felt was quite chronic. It might not have looked like that to other people, but for me and how I felt, it was like the end of the world.
How did you find the actual consultation and what was your experience in the consultation and then the treatment?
Yeah, so I would say the consultation for me, coming from someone who likes to go very in depth, I appreciate all the questions on my childhood, my background, previous illnesses that I had as a child, and also how I was feeling, because I was stuck in a bit of a loop of thinking I'm broken. So that was not helping.
I remember that, right?
Yeah, so it wasn't helping me get better. I just kept thinking, I almost feel like I was making myself worse. It was like my leg's not, and I was obsessing about it.
Sort of downward spiral.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yes, I remember that. So I remember, you were quite distressed. But then obviously, gave you, and one of the things I think people don't realize perhaps about the consultation is that it is so in depth. The first session is a 90-minute, I won't say slog, but it's a really in-depth look at every aspect of you. People come often with a particular problem and they just think, well, we'll just talk about that, like when you go to the doctor. But with homeopathy, it's so much more. We want to know everything about you.
Yeah. And I feel you have to dig. Like for me as a patient, you have to dig in and there might be some questions that you ask that I'm like, oh, I don't know, but I think you always know. You just have to sit with it for a bit. But
yes. Yeah, it does.
So
I think that's often patients say that it makes them, they often haven't thought about something that they've been asked about before, or never sort of vocalized it anyway. So it's kind of, it's often an interesting, exploration. And then what did you notice? I mean, we obviously gave you some remedies, and what did you notice? What changes or improvements did you experience?
first of all, the change was how I felt mentally. So I think we probably did a few remedies for me to then feel completely how I used to feel. But even though I was still getting some physical symptoms, I 100% felt more positive. Like I knew it was going in the right direction right away. So for me, it was how my mindset changed. And that was surprising for me. I didn't realize homeopathy worked that way because I'd never used it. I had used it, someone popped me a pill, to get rid of, like, so that I could pee.
I think, yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to say that I think some people are quite surprised at how quickly it works. So, I mean, I always tend to tell prospective patients that to allow up to 6 months really to get a full result, but often there's a very, very quick result, like much quicker than people think of antibiotics, but often the homeopathy works a lot quicker, which is sometimes surprising to people. It can feel like a cloud lifted, or something, just some weight lifted from your shoulders, and you start to feel better. What would you would you recommend homeopathy to other people for facing similar health challenges or other health challenges?
I mean, that was my converse. That's my first port of call now. I would not go to a GP now. And I think for me, it's more because another thing that happened was, because we've dealt with some other stuff, the symptom, like things don't come back. Touch wood. I've not, like, things are just completely gone.
You haven't relapsed, in other words.
Yeah, exactly. No. So I've never found that with like going to a GP, and I have a long history of dealing with GPs from being a child. And I guess the only thing for me was I didn't know enough about homeopathy. So it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because then I found another system that I could use, like that I could rely on for any health issues. So I'm grateful that I went through everything that I did.
Opens a doorway. Yes, a new. I think that's what I felt when I first discovered homeopathy. It was something so amazing, and that I was just surprised I hadn't heard about it before.
Yeah, and I'd heard about it, but I just didn't really look into it. Like, and I think you hear people who are like, oh, it doesn't, it's like some alternative medicine. But I mean, there's a science behind it. Like, the more I learn, I'm like, wow, it's,
So when you came obviously for certain, you came with certain physical issues, but did you find it sort of helped in other ways then? I mean, in terms of your energy and your general, outlook and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think there was some other stuff came up with COVID. Like, I started getting anxiety, some fears started coming back, which was, flying, like being on the motorway and in my car, I wasn't comfortable. And I don't even know if we've even treated that, but I feel like the other things that were being treated had an effect on the other kind of emotional stuff anyway, because nothing changed for me, and those fears have just kind of went.
And aren't you looking into, you're quite interested maybe in studying homeopathy? Is that correct?
I started. I'm 2 weeks in.
Have you? Which college did you go to?
The School of Homeopathy, the one that,
Excellent.
So it's a lot of reading.
That's wonderful. So thanks ever so much for telling everyone about your experience, which is really, really helpful. And I'm putting in the thing below, whatever you call it. I'll put some, if you want to have a free introductory chat about homeopathy to see if homeopathy would help you, then you can book in, and it's no obligation, completely free, and we'll have a up to 30 minutes to talk and answer all your questions. So thanks, Michelle, for coming along, and
Welcome.
have a lovely weekend.